To this webinar on AI and local democracy. What are we talking about? My name is Adrià Duarte, and I'm the coordinator of the International Observatory on Participatory Democracy and also the Committee of Social Inclusion and Human Rights of UCLG. And I'm delighted to open this important discussion on how artificial intelligence can impact local governments, specifically on participatory democracy and human rights. This event is co-organized by the Observatory together with the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, SALAR, the UCLG's Committee on Social Inclusion, Participatory Democracy, and Human Rights, the International Alliance of Inhabitants, the Phoenix Project, facilitated by the University of Coimbra, and the International Association of Facilitators, IAF. We thank you all our partners for their collaboration in making this dialogue possible. Artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping governance and democracy, bringing both new possibilities for participation, but also serious risks such as bias, exclusion, and lack of transparency. This is a crucial debate for local governments, civil society, and for democracy advocates worldwide. At OIDP, we have been committed to bringing the discussion forward. We already had last October in 2024 in Valongo, in our last conference, 2 sessions addressing AI's impact on participatory democracy. And looking ahead, this conversation will continue in May 2025 at the OIDP conference in Córdoba, Argentina, where AI and digital democracy will be a key topic. Today's webinar is a step towards building a shared understanding of AI roles in local governments and ensuring that technology serves democracy, not the other way around. So for today's agenda, we'll have a first part with 2 presentations by Flavia, Marzano, and Michelangelo, Secchi, followed by a case presentations from Sweden that our colleagues of SALAR will be introducing, and finally a call for action. We invite all of you to use the chat to introduce yourself and to share comments and questions to the speakers. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to this discussion. I'm going to switch now to Spanish. Y para arrancar esta discusión tenemos el honor de contar con el secretario de Participación de la Municipalidad de Córdoba, la presidencia de OIDP, Juan Domingo Viola, que nos va a dar también unas palabras de bienvenida. Secretario, a usted la palabra.
Muchas gracias, Adrià. Bueno, un saludo justo acá en Córdoba, es exactamente el mediodía, las 12 horas. Bueno, es para dejarle un saludo, un agradecimiento, una felicitación también por la organización de esta actividad. Contarles que la conferencia número 24 de OIDP, que nos toca presidir este año, que el intendente Daniel Pasarini se encuentra en el viejo mundo, en Francia, recibiendo un premio internacional por cuestiones vinculadas a salud y a educación, por la tarea hecha en nuestras escuelas acá en la ciudad de Córdoba, que les mando un afectuoso saludo a todos. La 24 conferencia la vamos a estar organizando los días 21, 22 y 23 de mayo. El título que se ha elegido para esta conferencia es Conectar, Integrar, Humanizar las ciudades ante el desafío de generar comunidad. Y los ejes temáticos son la participación ciudadana para la construcción de comunidad, la descentralización administrativa y operativa y política en el marco de un proceso que estamos como ciudad y que queremos también extender y contar al mundo, ciudadanía y gobierno en la era digital, y un cuarto eje que ha hablado con Adrià y con la presidencia del CGLU, consideramos importante, más en estos tiempos que estamos viviendo, sobre todo en América, en la Argentina y también traspolado a nivel mundial, que son las matrices tributarias y gobiernos locales. Es decir, matrices tributarias federales y gobiernos locales. Es una discusión que estamos viviendo fuertemente en estos lados del mundo, así que lo queríamos incorporar como un tercer eje de la conferencia y a su vez invitar a 2 actividades que vamos a tener prontamente. Una es el martes 1 de abril a las 12 horas, nosotros estamos -3 acá UTC, que es un encuentro iberoamericano de ciudades con la presencia convocando a la discusión sobre la matriz tributaria, es decir, que este eje que lo vamos a tener en la conferencia también, previo a la conferencia, organizar el 1 de abril una actividad con alcaldes, con equipos de gobierno vinculados a ir instalando este tema, cómo funciona la matriz tributaria federal y los gobiernos locales en el resto de los países del mundo. Y un evento el martes 15 de abril a las 18 horas que está pretendiendo vincular, y el tema es mujeres y la participación política en el siglo XXI. Así que tenemos 2 actividades virtuales previas a nuestra conferencia, en la que están invitados todos los miembros de OIDP, incluso miembros de ciudades de Latinoamérica que pretenden incorporarse a la unidad de gobiernos locales y ser parte de OIDP y de la Argentina. Así que va a ser un gusto esperarlos para mayo, pero contar con ustedes también en estas actividades previas. Gracias y bueno, realmente estamos muy ansiosos de que lleguen esos días de mayo para tenerlos por estos lados del mundo.
Muchas gracias, secretario, y estamos todos expectantes para estar en Córdoba y encontrarnos todos en mayo de este año. So now I give the floor to Giovanni Allegretti, who is the coordinator of the Phoenix projects, to facilitate the first part of this webinar.
Thank you very much indeed. We are very happy to be able to propose another occasion of dialogue on this topic. Last year in Valongo, we already organized 2 events on AI, which were involving the local authorities in the event. And it was very interesting also to have some practical experience in order to test the limits and opportunity of AI. I would go soon to introduce the first guest we are having here today, which is Flavia Marzano. Professor Flavia Marzano is an expert of AI in the Taskforce for Open Government in Italy, and has also been elder woman in Rome with responsibilities for open government, smart city, digital agenda, modernization, simplification, and relation between citizen and the public administration. So she moves very well among the 2 topics of today, which are AI and democracy. So Flavia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Giovanni. Thank you all for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. I will talk about artificial intelligence and democracy. So a political imperative, it should be an imperative for a participatory future. Well, this is my presentation, very fast. I'm a computer scientist. Nobody's perfect, I'm sorry. And those are my the word of my life. And still feminist, so nobody's perfect, as I said. I prefer to call me a why notter because I don't like people saying yes, but. I prefer very much people saying why not, and this is what I'm trying to do. So coming back to the issue, you for sure know that there is a European Artificial Intelligence Act, which is a groundbreaking regulation ensuring safe and ethical artificial intelligence use in Europe. It adopts a risk-based approach, imposing stricter rules on high-risk artificial intelligence to protect fundamental rights, ensure transparency, and promote accountability. By balancing innovation with risk mitigation, it positions the EU as a leader in responsive artificial intelligence governance. However, there is some problem, of course. We must acknowledge risks. The first, the biggest, is biases. Artificial intelligence algorithms are trained on data, as you know. And I would like to say without if, data reflects existing societal biases. So the AI will perpetuate and sometimes even amplify them. So this can lead to discriminatory outcomes, particularly for marginalized groups. Let's say gender biases, artificial intelligence used for recruitment is something that you for sure have seen already. May favor male candidates not because they are bad, because they are just trained on historical data. And historical data have male professionals predominantly. Facial recognition software can be less accurate in recognizing female faces, especially those of women of color, due to underrepresentation in training data set. We're talking about data set, not the software. The software is perfect, but it's based on data, and the data are full of biases, full of also errors sometimes. Voice recognition software may struggle to understand female voices due to a lack of diversity in voice samples. Advertising algorithms can display job advertisement for leadership position mainly to men while showing secretarial roles to women. We saw it. Just ask to any kind of artificial intelligence platform. A few days ago, I asked to ChatGPT in Italian, please translate, in Italian, you don't have to put the subject, is washing dishes. And the answer was, she is washing dishes. I said, hey, no, it's not correct. He said, okay, you're right. He is washing dishes. No, it's not correct anyway. Okay, you're right. She / he is washing dishes. So I had to teach ChatGPT to be less gender biased by this. This is a stupid example. Advertising algorithms can display job advertisement for leadership position mainly to men while showing secretarial roles there. Medical diagnosis can give skewed results if the training data is, as it is very often, predominantly from male patients. Other bias, there are a lot of different biases. Racial bias. AI used in criminal justice systems may target minority community. Socioeconomic bias may perpetuate existing inequality by favoring individuals from higher socioeconomic background. Age bias. Many systems are created with younger people in mind. You're thinking about those. And older generations are not considered. Bias related to disability. Lack of data related to people with some kind of disability can use a system to be not inclusive. So we are facing social transformation, a very strong social transformation from the AI point of view. And when we face social transformation, we can be overwhelmed by them, or is what I'm trying to understand and govern them. And that's why I'm trying to speak with politicians from local countries or national countries or regions or municipalities. They have to be aware of this problem when they give to their technicians the idea to make some software on this issue. Okay, but they have to be aware of biases. They have to understand social transformation and govern them. Talking about Italian open government partnership, we have a special issue like for promotion of inclusiveness and rights in access to technologies and the use of AI. That's really important because at least at a national level, there is the awareness of this issue, and the OGP can be distributed on the territories, so regions and municipalities. What this involves bridging the digital divide, first of all, of course, to ensure equitable access to technologies, all citizens, any kind of citizens, particularly those who from marginalized or disadvantaged groups. Protecting fundamental rights, safeguarding rights such as, of course, privacy, non-discrimination, freedom of expression. That's also a very strong point in the Italian Open Government Partnership, specifically for AI. Promoting ethical AI, so encouraging the development and adoption of ethical guidelines and standards for AI system. Enhancing digital literacy, initiatives to improve citizen understanding of artificial intelligence and digital technologies, empowering them to use these tools safely and effectively. Fostering inclusive innovation, support the development of AI solutions that address social challenges and promote inclusivity. Which kind of results we are expecting? Skills, first of all, strengthening skills, because we have everybody working together with much more competencies on that. Mapping of practices with particular attention to the dimension of gender, intergenerational, and intersectional biases. The shared definition of ethical principle for the use of AI, if it is shared, we have the hope that more people is understanding what are we talking about when we're talking about ethical principle in AI. The formulation of recommendation of the inclusiveness of AI data and algorithms to be delivered to the competent national bodies. So how can artificial intelligence enhance citizen participation from one side and decision-making from the other one? Facilitate access to information. So citizen can easy access to complex government data, policies, and whatever. Enable online consultation. It is possible with AI, of course. AI can analyze a vast amount of public feedback, so much easier than taking and doing by a human being, but AI can do it very faster, much better, taking much more data to analyze those data and enhance civic engagement. We can have chatbot, as you know, virtual assistant that can provide citizen personalized information. I am asking to my municipality, how can I do, when I can come there to do this? It's a guidance on civic issues. And data analysis for policies. AI can analyze a large, huge data sets to identify trends, patterns, and then taking decision from that point of view. So I'm finished. AI and democracy must go hand in hand, because a truly participatory future starts with empowered citizens. So you can find me there. Last thing I would like to stress is that about sharing knowledge. We have to share knowledge, first of all. Those slides, of course, are covered by Creative Commons license, so attribution and share alike. So you can use it and do whatever you prefer on that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Flavia. I'm sorry that it's difficult to clap here, even if we could do it, because actually, Gerardo and I, we are not alone here. We are in an event in Milan that is the national meeting of the Italian chapter of the International Association of Facilitators, which runs in these 3 days with the topic of facilitation and AI. So we have a lot of people also in front of us, at least 12% or 15% of the entire group that is here. So I cannot turn the camera because I'm scared that something will happen to the computer, but you know that you have also a physical audience, and it's very important, the physical dimension for all of us here. And another thing I wanted to add to what Flavia said is that from May to November, there will be at the OGP of Italy a process of participation linked to the construction of the recommendation on AI. So if you are interested, go in the page, because you will see the moments which are open to everybody to contribute on the Decidim platform, Participi, and in other workshops where you can contribute to write this. And I think, for example, the perspective of the people that do facilitation and have the important soft skill of empathy and other skills that the machine, irony, that the machine are not able to have. It's very important also to help writing this recommendation. So thank you very much, Flavia. I will give the floor now to Michelangelo Secchi. Michelangelo is a researcher in this moment working at the Politecnico of Milano, and he has a PhD in democracy in the 21st century. He got in Portugal, and he founded with other colleagues Eudema.net, whose it's an enterprise whose subtitle is Digital Sustainable Transitions, which work with a very interesting approach, including providing to local authorities and movements courses with a a civic hacking perspective, no, which are also radical, important perspective on the topic of the digital in general. And I will leave the floor to Michelangelo. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Giovanni. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see I'm sharing? I'm not using like a PowerPoint. For this meeting, I took some note that I put on a Markdown file that you can also directly access from the link that I put into the chat. As a matter of fact, it's not a presentation; it's like a collection of links and resources that eventually can also be useful for some of you to check the following moments. So it was more useful for this kind of occasion, also because I have to say that for me but I think for many of us is still very challenging to discuss, let's say in general terms, about the interplay between artificial intelligence and participatory democracy, and exactly frame this kind of let's say of intersection in a manner that is clearly established for all the people here. I think most of us come from different backgrounds. We have very different understanding of what is AI, eventually also what is participatory democracy. And so also for this reason, this is not going to be a presentation that gives you really strong statement, but some open doubts, and let's say points that can be useful to start a debate, a discussion here during this meeting or in other moments. So that's I think a necessary point to make in the beginning of my presentation. So I also have some information about me. I am, as Giovanni was saying, currently I'm a fellow researcher at Politecnico di Milano, in this very nice group that is led by Professor Grazia Concilio, that works on on several topics, but in particular also on the impact of digital technologies on the urban space, on the urban domain, and on the production space. But in addition to this, I'm also working since many years as a consultant now with this small company called Eudema, which is really recently founded, but I have more than 20 years of applied experience as a consultant, mainly for the public sector, in the organization of participatory processes, participatory deliberative processes, mainly for the local level, but not only for local authorities. And I also am an old friend of OIDP. I wanted to put these pictures. I had two pictures. I think eventually Adria or someone else will remember. It was in 2016, the opening of the meeting in Matola. So that was just to say that before studying the impact or the interplay between AI and participatory democracy, I've been from time a practitioner and passionate activist researcher on participatory democracy. So that is, let's say, eventually my bias on AI is that I come from that kind of domain, and then I approached technical, technological topics, I would say in the last decade, before AI, when in general terms, digital technologies became central in a large part of participatory setting and processes. So as I was saying before, it's very, very difficult to define what is AI nowadays. It's a very fuzzy category. I think eventually some of you know this picture. Comes from a very popular online course that's called Element of AI. I don't want to provide an explanation, but just say that it's a large broad definition that includes a lot of sub definitions. It interacts with other labels that are commonly used in these days. In some case, let's say, for example, according to this picture, AI is a category that includes other specific kind of AI that are the ones that are now more popular, like the large language model. That is what I will focus on in a while. But also, let's remember that AI is also a broader domain that includes several kinds of application. Let's say that, well, that was like another point to make in the beginning. Many times, a lot of, let's say, the not technical debate on AI in many cases reflect on the human-like features of artificial intelligence. I would like just to say that, and it leads off a lot of questions, generally refer to the way in which machine can eventually interpret, replicate, simulate, or actually have feelings and emotion, and how does it affect our experience of interaction with them. This is a very interesting topic. There's a lot has been explored by several, let's say, disciplines. I think I wanted to share some picture to remind that it has been really long time explored also by science fiction, as for some of you can recognize this image in which in a dystopian future in Blade Runner, there is a job that is the job of the main character of the movie that is in charge of recognizing whether if replicants are actually machines or humans, and to do that he tried to push them into extreme emotional situation to check their reaction, technical to check also their pupils, but that's probably really science fiction, so that's not something that's gonna happen. But it's interesting that almost 50 years ago there was already some strong imaginary about this topic that is still a topic nowadays. And in many cases, when we talk about AI, when we see debates on AI on mainstream media, newspaper, etc., that's the way the topic is framed. It's important to remind that AI, also, as you can see, I like citation and quotation. So AI is everything, everywhere, all at once. I mean that we are surrounded by AI application. I was checking in the chat that currently in this very reunion meeting we are having now, there is at least 3 AI that are running. One is Wordly, one other is AI Companion, and I see there is another user that has attached another tool that send transcription to ChatGPT to get back a resume. So I think that's another AI, but probably inside each one of these AI tool, there are other pieces of AI referred to other services that run in the background. So let's say on one end, it's important to remind that it's almost impossible, let's say, to find a space that can be completely free from some kind of let's say, AI application for whatever it can mean, but also to remind that yes, that's there is a super complex multi-layered system that allow for the functioning of artificial intelligence. This is a cartography of generative AI that's created, I think, from a Spanish group of media activists that try to put on map let's say, all the productive process that underlie the functioning of large language models, from the training to the use, the startup, but also including the most tangible part of this production process that starts with the extraction of certain materials, the production and consumption of energy, etc., etc. So it's a very complex map, but I suggest you to have a look if you want to at least to have an overview of this complexity and this very intricate interplace. But let's focus on the topic of today. So I tried to narrow down to a specific kind of question, because otherwise I think up to now we have been talking, well, doing like kind of talk that we could have with friends, with the general interest of it. So I tried to narrow it down to this specific topic, that is the use of large language model in deliberative participatory setting. So it's necessary to at least give a couple of definitions of what I mean by deliberative / participatory setting. That is, let's say, the set of implicit and explicit rule that define the participatory space, the functioning of the participatory space, the way in which participants access to information, interact with each other, eventually makes decision, and obviously there's a large literature. I think at least part of the people that is in this call is very familiar with what I took the definition of deliberative standard from the Oxford Handbook of Deliberative Democracy. That is one of the many research that tried to identify what are actually the standards that define the, let me say, the ideal condition for a proper deliberation. I think I don't want to go through the actual standard, but it's to remember that there are some of them are really established, like the inclusion, the idea of the consideration, the position of reason, the aim at consensus, etc., etc. And somehow I think that these kind of standards have been orienting the design of a lot of participatory processes, both in research and also in the actual public policy domain, or even in the private sector. A large language model is a type of artificial intelligence model that works on language, on natural language, and is trained with a huge amount of data and is capable to somehow generate human understandable language in text, let's say. So this, I think I took this definition from the Knowledge Center translation and interpretation of the European Union, the European Commission. So you can check the link and so see how it is. But I think some definition insist more on the way it has been trained. Some other definition insist on other feature. What is important for us is to understand that in the moment in which large language model influence language, and a lot of let's say the literature on the study on the ideas that underlie deliberation reflect on the way in which people through language communicate and interact. It's obvious that the research question, the main research question, the high level, which is not a kind of question that we can answer, but it's the question that should drive our decision in choosing which kind of artificial intelligence, which kind of model, in which kind of context can eventually be used, or what is the impact that it can have. It's exactly to keep this question in mind. The question is to what extent the large language model influence this kind of deliberative standard, influence the way in which people interact, access to information, form its opinion, makes decision, etc. And on the other side, obviously, how can we achieve a transparent governance of a complex technology that is so much interdependent by other mega technologies and infrastructure that make it work, and where the agency of this technology, agency meaning the power, the subject that decide how it works, it's not easily to be identified, but it's scattered between different kind of players. In many cases, it's opaque, it's not easy to inspect, and it's hybrid, because when we are talking about models that are self-supervised, are not just a model that depends upon the annotation and the direction of humans, but also by the way machine believe to interpret, so by some kind of self-training, a self-automated training by machine themselves, so by decision actually made by machines. So many of these questions, these two questions, so how technology impact deliberative standard and who decide about the technology of deliberation, were really good questions even before large language models. Now it's much more complex to deal with it because of the complexity of the technology and of its implication. And of course, it's always important to remind that the definition of a deliberative setting stands in the public sphere. So, as I was saying a while, even though if we can now narrow down to the use of AI in a deliberative setting, we need to remember that around the deliberative setting, AI is running and influencing, let's say, the whole public sphere and the way it functions. So we can say that there is some kind of pervasiveness of artificial intelligence in deliberative participatory settings. We can exactly try to focus on the explicit use, but there are a lot of implicit use that are done also, let's say, more or less constantly by the human and non-human participants that influence the way of participating. So this is also an important reminder. We can, for example, decide that we will not use any AI tool to summarize the debate in an online forum, but there could still be a user that can do it by just taking the text and making it run on a model that is available on its computer or somewhere else. Or we can decide to not make available a tool to elaborate proposal, but still someone can use a chatbot to get support and elaborate proposal. So from this point of view, I think it's also important to make decision taking into account that there is almost always an alternative in place, and this alternative, this by now is very, very accessible, also in terms of cost. And okay, I think now I also this part is very similar to one slide that was already before in the previous presentation. I try to understand exactly what are the use cases of large language model in participatory processes. I think it's important to anticipate that. First of all, we sometimes overlap the use of AI or language models in participatory setting and the participation to define the rules of AI. And also before, these are two sides of the same coin. But it's important to note that up to now, a lot of many of the let's say processes that I'm at regulating at different scale artificial intelligence and provide norms or good practice suggestion or whatever is the forcing power of this regulation, rely on really classical way of interacting. So like, for example, citizen assemblies and methodologies that are not per se methodologies that entails explicitly some innovative or well-contextualized use of artificial intelligence. And okay, let's say this is something I will also say after. Of course, we have, I think the AI Act, as I agree, has been a very important step on the way to try to regulate, but the enforcing capacity of this high-level regulation on the actual practices, this is my opinion, is still very limited. And in this respect, I think we can think a bit about the impact of the GDPR on the data protection in our daily practices, and to what have been the effect and how much it has just been generating new bureaucracy or actually enforcing a proper protection of personal data. I think it's important to go in this direction, but also to recognize the limitation and also the limited capacity to influence not just institutional framework, but the private practice and in this case, the practice of technology, well, that is really dematerialized. It's not dematerialized. It takes place in really different places of the world that are outside the scope of European Union and its institutions. So,
Michelangelo,
yes.
5 minutes, if you can. Okay.
Okay, I am. Here I am. So, let's some example. supporting some specific participatory interaction. Yes, the first one is support, argumentation, and idea development. That's an example where I asked to a chatbot to provide me some good argument to support the proposal of refurbishment of the park below my house for the participatory budgeting in Milan. No, and is really argumenting well by providing points that probably up to a few years ago would have been hard to propose for me or for a person that is not expected of, is not expert of park refurbishment. This is not a dedicated tool. Yes, it is it's actually ChatGPT. There are attempts nowadays to train and fine-tune models on dedicated corpora to increase the quality of arguments and the way in which these arguments are formed. I also am part of this project that is called Orbis. Orbis is a project where some of these, let's say, fine-tuned local model are being experimented. And let me say that when we go to the practical use of this model, one question that is very, very important to ask to the people that will use during the testing stage is exactly what are the conditions at which condition like a trained model can beat the commercial alternative, can generate better results, and what do we mean by better actually? So what is a better result in this domain? A model that provides you with more scientific evidence, a model that provides, I don't know, shorter description that are easier to understand for others, a model that provides, and that is the quality of the better is the actual what that is important to wonder when, for example, I don't know, municipality or a public body decide to go for the investment and develop a model to support proposal from citizens, for example. Another typical use, the summarization of discussion. Also in this case, there's a lot of commercial offer. I was saying before, there are at least 3 running right now in this very meeting. Also in this case, research and some offer, some smaller offer, try to provide and develop kind of tool that are more, let's say, more consistent with the deliberative tradition. So they try to map arguments, the way people make their opinion, form, make coalition, and gets to decision, sometimes also generating graph. Here there is one platform, for example, that's called Because. I don't have the time to show the example, but I suggest you to go through that, to check. It shows graph of how the discussion has gone. It uses artificial intelligence and process the text to identify the most relevant topic, the most discussed, the most contested, etc. And a set of elements that usually in some cases can be used also to unlock certain impasses in a discussion. And also in this case, it's very difficult to assess the quality of summary that, at least in principle, shall be assessed and recognized by the participants themselves. And keeping in mind the question that is, what is the purpose of summarizing a discussion in the design of a deliberative process? So during the design of deliberative processes, up to a few years ago, summaries were at a certain step that were exactly summary step in which they were eventually anticipating a decision to be made. Is it the case? Does it make sense? The summary should be oriented to a decision, because summarizing per summarizing risk to generate the strange phenomena for which we all attach some AI assistant and summarize a debate, but very little people actually go to read the summaries of this debate that are summarized. Moderation, that's, I think, I know there's a group of moderators, so let me just introduce that there is also, it's part of what I was saying before, there are a lot of practical use of LLMs for moderation, both in asynchronous settings, so meaning moderating content text, that's that was existing even well before large language models, But language model can also experiment with some kind of live moderation by interacting with the people through captions and suggesting keeping the agenda, moderating, I don't know, with some stop words, or delivering other kind of action that mimic the way human facilitate discussion. So, well, that's a question for facilitators, not a comment for mine. I know there is Gerard and some other that will talk after me. So, let's say that during the EUCOMIC project, that is one project that was actually trying to use automated moderation, there was this strong, let's say, evidence that actually in this moment, when we think about the use of AI actually change a lot the way and the position of human moderators that somehow were also, let's say, characters that were influencing the setting of deliberation. And on top of this, there is a lot of literature. Let's just say that there is a major difference between the use of AI to conceive an automated moderation and to support human supervision of a moderation that can eventually, thanks to this kind of model, decrease the cost and have less people engaged, supporting and supervising the moderation on a larger number of debate. There are a lot of other kind of applications that I'm not going through now, but for example, AI could be used to generate, this is not less LLMs, less language-based, but can be used to generate sample for deliberative processes based on sortition, can be used to support to the expansion of networks, suggesting coalition, like for example, typical function. Hey, look, there is this proposal which is similar to your one. I suggest you to link with these other people. So this is something that can intervene in the way the relations are done, can be used to fine-tune and shape certain voting methods, for example, calculating the optimal number of preferences that could be done according to a number of voting option and number of participants, can be used to deliver training, and can have a lot of other integration, including hybrid system and so other, let's say, processes which AI is used together with augmentation. So since it's short, I will finish here. I will avoid for you the general ethical challenges and the one for the public sector. I will focus on the deliberative challenges that have been somehow anticipated, but I will summarize in these 4 points. The first one regards the fact and the risk that, let's say, the use of AI and can introduce new asymmetries and new exclusion barriers. There's a large evidence that the digitalization of participatory and deliberatory setting have been representing a major factor of differentiation of the quality of participation, and this differentiation is based mainly on let's say, social capital differences in society. And so it's expectable that also the capacity to understand the way in which this complex tool work will generate different, let's say, different option and possibility to use them within the context of a deliberative setting, creating differences between participants. So while designing this kind of integration, this is one major question to keep into account. For example, deploying proper training, increasing the transparency regarding the functioning of the tool, etc., and allowing also, say, to a larger public possible to understand exactly the way in which they work. The control over the rules, which is another, so the governance of deliberative setting of AI, it's obviously made more challenging by the complexity, by the fact that there are nested levels of complexity, I would say, and so the challenge is how to actually create a social control on the rules that oversee the functioning of an algorithm, or the integration of an algorithm within a deliberative setting. Another major challenge regards the paradox of trust that is also related to the fact that in many cases we are not capable to actually inspect exactly the reason why a certain language model provide an answer and not another. And at the same time, we lean to think that there is an intrinsic superiority in the epistemology of quantitative methods. So since this answer is generated on top of a statistic probabilistic calculation of what is the better answer to your question, that is likely to be the best answer possible, which is very, very, very questionable from an epistemic philosophical point of view. And finally, I think this is probably the major challenge that we have to face when we think about it, which is the topic of performance, speed, and time. And I feel that we are on one end getting used to these tools that are very powerful, that give us an answer in a second, just I click and I have my answer in 1 second, a translation of a long document that would have taken me 1 week, now I have it in 10 minutes, etc. And to what extent and how much it would, let's say, support a better deliberation, a better consideration, and a better understanding from the participants of the topic in discussion. We all know that time is not an independent variable when we design participatory processes, and when we implement it, is an important variable of the formation of an opinion, of the exchange, and on the consideration that underlie the making of a decision. And so somehow, let's say, there is this, let's say, this tension between the immediateness of the function of this tool and the time required for making decision. And with this, I would close. I'm sorry if I took a bit more than what I was expecting. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Michelangelo. There are questions for you, but I let also the floor to Adria for introducing the next part. I think the question and answer will be just after the next session. Adria, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michelangelo and Flavia, for this very interesting presentation. I think it's quite difficult still to keep in mind about what we're talking about AI, but I think was quite clear. So let me give the floor to Anders Nors, who is a senior advisor of Finance and Governance Division of the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, to bring some practical cases from AI in Sweden. Anders?
Thank you very much, Adria and OIDP, for the opportunity to participate here in this very important seminar. I work primarily with citizens dialogue and provide support and inspiration to municipalities and regions in Sweden. I had the opportunity to be part in one of the seminars at the conference in Valongo, as Adria mentioned earlier. And today we will be at an important sort of touchdown towards the conference in Coimbra, and also for the future conferences coming up. And I appreciate that OIDP is taking the initiative to discuss AI and local democracy. It's important that we share experiences between countries. And like all new technology, there is always many new fantastic opportunities that we need to explore. But it comes also with the challenges that we need to understand, discuss, and manage, as well as the possibilities. Using AI in municipalities and regions is something that is happening today, especially in Sweden. Several municipalities are implementing AI to improve their services, but they are also testing AI in the dialogue with citizens. And I think that's good because when we do that, we can both see the opportunities and challenges are made visible. So that helps us to see how we can improve and use AI wisely. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce representatives from one of the municipalities that is testing AI in citizen dialogues, namely the municipality of Sundsvall. And I welcome Andreas Strömgren, Director of Urban Planning, and Ulrika Sjöberg, Communication Strategist at the Planning Division. Welcome and share your experiences with us, Andreas and Ulrika. And I leave the floor to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate to be here together with you.
And I think we should just go forward.
Yep.
And share with you, and hopefully you will see a little bit. First, I want to say that none of us have the technical skills that our IT strategists would have served you. So if you have questions about the platform that I will talk about later, then you can have the information from Anders. We will send it to you, and you can send it further.
And to begin with, I will give you some background on the case, and afterwards,
sorry, we need just to share the screen. AI the den.
Oh. And then Ulrika will give you more information about the technical background.
Om du vill, Ulrika, kan jag dela från min skärm också.
Ja, du kanske har rätt. Jag tror jag visar fel skärm här.
Ja, där nu.
Vänta, ska vi se. Så. Do you see it now?
No.
No. Stoppa delningen då.
Ja. Ska jag ta...
Ja, du kan få göra det.
Nej, kör den.
Måste du stänga?
Jag gör ju det. Den är ju... Jaha.
Sådär va?
Perfect, Anders.
Ja.
Stäng.
Får ni säga pling när jag ska byta. Ska jag köra nästa?
Ja. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us begin. So, please change picture, and we would like to start out with welcome you to the heart of Sweden, Sundsvall municipality. We have a population of just over 99,000 people. We have a university, a very diversified business sector with its historical roots in forestry and timber industry. After a fire in the late 19th century, Sundsvall was rebuilt by affluent citizens and with insurance money, and a dense stone city rose from the ashes with a quite unique urbanity that remains today and well matches the historical city centers of the European continent with its dense urban character. Developing this kind of historical city center requires respect for history and, of course, architecture. But it's also important that it should be a dynamic and growing city where citizens and visitors can partake in a vibrant city life. Please change picture. Just a few words about the Swedish planning system so you can understand the context for the citizen dialogue. Sweden has a very strong central government, but also a very strong local municipal self-governance and a quite weak regional system for urban planning, quite weak regional planning institutions. 290 municipalities have a monopoly on land and water use in planning, actually, and can decide on land and water use. In Sundsvall, the elected representative council has made the decision to undertake a mission to develop meeting places in the traditional historical city center. The purpose is to create more urban life 24/7 in the downtown area, to challenge the dynamics that have arisen with external shopping centers, of course, and also online commerce. This will be done using dialogue as a tool, but according to the Swedish model with consultative dialogue models, to improve the decision-making basis in the representative assemblies. It's not about decision-taking. We have had the pleasure to developing methods and strategies for citizen dialogue to be used in other development processes alongside this specific dialogue. So that's the case today. Please change picture. Let us take a look at the strategy for dialogue before Ulrika helps us to understand how IA can be used as a tool to make it work for everyone. It's a process in 3 phases that we choose to work with. In the first phase, the purpose and objective of the dialogue phase must be specified. Based on that, the implementation is planned. During the implementation, the dialogue itself is conducted while the results are compiled and analyzed. Of course, feedback is very important. In the third phase, the result must be made accessible, and the dialogue method and the conduct of the conversation must be evaluated. Please change picture. What happens then? Yeah, in the first phase for dialogue, the dialogue can be initiated in 3 ways. It can be required by citizens, of course. It can also be initiated by officials, or in this case, ordered by the elected representatives. In the case of the square in the center of Sundsvall, it is integrated into the mission to develop meeting places in the center, and specific the square in Sundsvall. The elected officials want to develop the development of the square to be based on the needs expressed by the residents of Sundsvall. In the implementation phase, we have developed both large meetings and ongoing street dialogue, with the given starting point being that the dialogue has been conducted by both officials and politicians, with the opportunity for participation across party lines. The feedback phase has occurred with several tools: direct documentation and publication, planned communication, and a consolidated report, of course. It has been reported to the representatives, elected assemblies, but also announced through media and political statements directed at the public. Ulrika.
Yes. And then we have 10 principles in our strategy for citizen dialogue, as you can see. And I won't mention all of them, you can read about them, but there are certain principles that you really need to, when you work with IA especially, and part of it is you have to be sure that it actually can give the decision makers a better basis for decisions. That's one thing which is not certain all the time. And the opportunity to influence the citizen dialogue should only take place when there is a real possibility to influence decisions. And otherwise, there are other tools for information more than to have this dialogue. There has to be a clear mandate in the dialogue. It should be clear in advance that citizens have the opportunity to influence during each dialogue session. So expectations must be aligned on both sides. And you need, when it comes to participation, those who may be affected by an issue should be given the opportunity to take part in the dialogue process and to be encouraged to engage. Often, this means reaching out to people who do not voluntarily sign up to participate. And this is one very important matter in this dialogue, because we had a dialogue for 10 years ago, which was the same topic, and you most heard the people who were the loudest voice. And that's one of the things that we really had to focus on in this a specific dialogue. And you can change the picture now. What we did was we tested different dialogue methods, both analog, digital, and AI. And we had a dialogue with more than 1,000 people. But carrying out a broad dialogue takes a lot of time, as you're well aware of, I guess. And one of the main goals was to reach those groups who hadn't been included in previous dialogues. We also wanted to bring together groups with very different options, with the hope that by meeting they would gain more respect for each other's different perspectives. On top of that, we used questions inspired, for example, the architect Jan Gehl's urban planning methods, to make sure that we didn't miss any key aspects related to city development. We also wanted to be able to compare what we learned with previous dialogues, our strategic documents, future trends, research and practical experience. This led to a huge amount of data that needed to be processed and analyzed. Doing all that wouldn't have been possible within the short time frame we actually had, not without the help of AI. The alternative would have been fewer dialogue sessions, less input to work with, or having to have a lot more time, which in turn would have meant higher project costs. You can change picture now. And what would we notice then? Well, the advantages of using AI was time saving, of course, fast compilation and comparison of existing data. It was an efficient data collection, for example, when transcribing meetings, and quick retrieval of answers, extracts insight from large data compilations. But disadvantages. Well, lack of human signals. AI didn't detect nods, raised eyebrows, other expressions, or use of different words for the same topic. Generative AI can be overly creative, we noticed. Add facts that people actually didn't mention. You need prior knowledge of your data or participation in meetings so that you won't miss these things. And it requires well-formulated questions for useful, accurate answer. You must know how to ask the right questions to the material. You can change picture. Well, what do we work in then? Well, Intric, that's an open platform solution for generative AI in the public sector. Sundsvalls municipality has worked with a startup, InnoLabs, to build a smart AI tool. The platform makes us help. It's easier to use AI in many different ways. Just like many modern tools, it's open for everyone to use and improve. You can find it on GitHub as well. The idea behind this is simple. We want to avoid being locked into specific companies. Instead, work together with others. It's part of a plan to create a digital system that lasts, where openness and sharing is key. You can change picture as well. It's a smart control where we manage all AI models and settings in one place, safely and securely. This means we always know what the AI is doing and can keep everything running safely. It's a teamwork tool where people can work together to build, test, and improve AI apps. It's not just for tech experts. This platform makes it easier for teams to collaborate on AI projects. And it gives us a flexible AI use where we can run many different types of AI models, even in our own secure local environment. This is very important and it's really useful when we're working with sensitive or personal data. We keep everything in-house and safe. And we're not there yet, so we can lean back and make the AI work out everything for us. But we can use it. It's a good tool, an effective tool to help us where we have a lot of data to take care of. So yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andreas and
because we
Ulrika.
have a room full of people here, at least we can clap.
Yeah, that's great, Giovanni. But I think one very important lesson that the speakers earlier had mentioned too is how can we keep the human in the loop to control what the AI is delivering. And I think this is one example how we can manage it in a maybe better and different way with this type of platform. So thank you, and over to you. I think it is Audrey, is it you who take it from here, maybe?
Thank you, Anders, and thank you very much, colleagues. Before advancing to the last fragment of the session, I don't know if anyone wants to make a specific question to the Swedish colleagues. I mean, you can also use the chat. There was a question that were on the chat for Michelangelo from Cesar. I don't know if Cesar, you want to read it, or Michelangelo, if you want to just to take maybe one moment to answer this question from Cesar. He's driving. Okay, I can read if you want, Cesar. And
No,
okay, go ahead, Michelangelo.
I got it. Yes, if I can answer also, because unfortunately at 5:30 I have to leave. I have to pick up my baby at the crash, and so I will not be able to stay longer. So I'm sorry if I will leave. So regarding this question, I think well, first of all, I don't have the answer. Hi, Cesar, nice to meet you. It's a long time we don't meet each other, but yes, it's a long time. It's a very complex question. I think we are still in a stage in which we can try to make attempt. I think the case that we just heard is a really good example of what should be done. So I think move on with experiment on local models that are trained with significant human supervision, and the establishment of governance body that can improve the transparency and filter and select the data that will be used to train the model, I think are important step. And here, for sure, local authorities can play a major role in supporting these processes. So I think this kind of experiments are interesting. My fear, let's say, my major fear is that that is also based on more on practical experience, is that the final result nowadays is often, let's say, from the user perspective, it's not easy to understand what is the added value of a local model when compared to a commercial alternative, which is much faster and in this moment even cheap, let's say, somehow. So, and it's really difficult to convey this added value. And on the other hand, the computational cost of training a model and of running prediction, especially when you have to run several predictions at the same time. For now, if I have to wait 10 minutes for the feedback from a chatbot regarding a step, it's something that is discomforting for a user that he used to get the answer in 1 second. So there is also a bottleneck that is in the cost of the computational cost and the reduction of this kind of costs, that for sure training on local model could also reduce the cost of future prediction. But still the gap in terms of what's the final outcome in this moment for me is, in my experience, is often really difficult to explain to a generalistic public. It works better if the public is not a super generalistic one, is another one, is a public that can understand what is the added value of a more accurate algorithm. It is my answer. I don't know if it's a good answer or not, but it's the only one that in this moment I feel. So, but I think there's still a lot of room for experimenting and eventually for innovation that would reduce the computational cost and the consumption of energy that is required to run this kind of tools.
Thank you very much, Michelangelo. And I think it's very appropriate because it's easy that transition to move to the final part of this webinar, that it's the call for action. No, we have been a little bit setting the table on the AI, exploring this example, and now this last part of this session, because it's a construction, a process, it's really this call of action for an alliance, no? Because we're seeing that these local governments are facing this new transformation, this new challenge. So it's so important, as we always try to build from the UCLG, from the observatories, to build these alliances between the different actors, civil society organization with local governments, also to build this alliance to try to avoid the risk and to try to build a good path for this giving together local democracy and AI and new digital platforms and tools. So for this final call for action part, I'm giving the floor to Gerardo de Lusenberg, who is the Global Chair of the International Association of Facilitators.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Andre. Yeah, so the International Association of Facilitators, it's an international organization. We are present all over the world. We were born 30 years ago, so we turned 30 last year exactly, and we are present in all regions of the world. So from Africa to Asia, China, and then Latin America, of course, North America, Canada, and Europe. We, as the association, like to say that we have set the industry standard of facilitation. So, for example, we have developed what we call the core competencies of facilitation, which have somehow defined the skills and the competence that are expected to a professional approach to facilitation. We also have developed the code of ethics and the statement of values, which is something we always ask to sign to our members from all over the world. And of course, in this moment, we are all working on AI, and we are all look at AI as a very important tool in facilitation, which has suddenly entered into our daily practice of work. And for example, I'm talking now from the conference in Italy that we run every year. This conference is called Facilita, and this year it's about the use of AI in facilitation, no? How we can use AI in facilitation. It's clearly a very powerful tool. I would say in some way it's a tool like Post-it or markers or flip chart in the past were tools as well in facilitation. Of course, it's a very powerful tool which can really speed up the work of a group, but also challenge the group in this. And the challenges we see are exactly the challenges have been mentioned by the people that have been talking before me. So biases, first of all, and also somehow I would say the easiness of the tool. So sometimes it's very simple to use the AI, especially for reporting, for example, or for working on different things. Meanwhile, we are really testing this tool, because for us it's important also the design phase, of course, crafting the questions, and then also using the tool itself in speeding up the work. So, I mean, this is the situation for us at the moment. We, as a community of and a community of practice of facilitation, but also as a professional community, which also runs accreditation program for facilitators. We are all looking at the AI, and we are also in this moment inquiring about the AI and how we can use it in our daily work, and also to accompany all the processes that you have been describing in this webinar, because most of the activities you see and have been described have in the background, and sometimes even in the front ground, a facilitator, and she or he is working in this sense and using the AI for the things we do. So this is basically our point of view. We are calling to action now all our members. So this conference, for example, it's a call to action to our members just to understand and work together to understand how you can use the tool and what are the pros and cons of a tool like this one. And but there is also a broader call to action to the world community. So even our African colleagues, for example, are working on the use of AI, and also, of course, our Asian colleagues. And it's really interesting for us also because we are present in countries in this world where freedom it's not, it's a challenge. So we are present, for example, in Iran. We have a chapter in Iran. We have chapters in many other countries where, for example, we have a chapter in Syria that we develop also twin with Syria. So in Egypt, we are present in many parts of the world where also, I mean, freedom is challenged. And of course, all these tools, which could mean also control, political control, and these sort of things can be, I mean, important in this sense. Okay, so that's basically what we are doing this moment, and we look with a lot of interest initiatives like yours, because I mean, from us and from our point of view, are exactly the testing field where we can test all these practices and these things that we do in our professional work. And I'm done.
Thank you very much, Gerardo. Thank you very much also for being here, for accompanying us, and also to have, we know that you're having this session today in Milan, so it's also great that we can like being together in this moment. And also, I think it was really important that you bring the importance also of the different context, no? Because maybe we were talking about some more like global north context, but it's important that we also take into account the different global contents, the difficulties of some contexts, the non-democratic context, and of course the situation of violations of human rights. So it really, we need to take account this diversity of the situation. So thank you very much. And now I'm giving the floor to Cesare Utolino, who is the Global Coordinator of the International Alliance of Inhabitants. Cesare, please.
Gracias, Adria, y gracias a todos los participantes en esta importante reunión. Es una etapa. Para nosotros, la Alianza Internacional de Habitantes, es importante este intercambio con las autoridades que se ponen el tema de la democracia participativa. Nosotros somos una red global de organizaciones populares presente en todos los continentes, con más de 100 miembros desde más que 20 años. Desde unos años estamos no solamente haciendo un hincapié, sino analizando cuál es el impacto de la inteligencia artificial en el tema de vivienda, en el tema del gobierno de las ciudades. En particular, hoy hemos tenido la oportunidad de escuchar cómo se utilizan o cómo deberíamos utilizar las aplicaciones, las apps, en el gobierno democrático de la ciudad. Esta es una parte importante, es decir, cuando hay que tomar cuidado con el tema de las discriminaciones, hay que tomar cuidado con el tema de la brecha digital, hay que tomar cuidado con el desarrollo de la democracia participativa, no solamente como factor ornamental. Sobre este tema quisiera destacar la atención de todos, porque en este momento estamos hablando de una herramienta que no es sencillamente el pasaje desde la máquina, no, como se dice, para redactar a la computadora. No, es el pasaje entre un tipo de energía que es parecida, sino más importante, de la energía atómica. El tema no es sencillamente decidir o ver cómo esta energía atómica, entre comillas, tendría que ser gobernada democráticamente, sino que de toda manera, de cómo no, a pesar de lo que estamos haciendo, otros, en este momento más que poderosos que nosotros, están actuando rápidamente. El riesgo es que ellos, llamamos los malos, ya han dicho los nombres, implementen modelos que son, por ejemplo, ustedes han entendido hablar de Neon City, esta ciudad lineal en Arabia Saudita, que va a ser gobernada aún más para la no democracia participativa, sino la inteligencia artificial, mejor dicho, para los inversores, 500 billones de dólares que tiene que ser, como dice, tiene que extraer provecho. Este provecho, esta renta, es a la espalda de los derechos humanos de todos, aún más de la democracia participativa. ¿Usted piensa que este es un modelo marginal? No. No es un modelo marginal, porque en el momento en el cual todos nosotros, ustedes como autoridades locales, nosotros como habitantes, estamos confrontados con el hecho que hay una crisis fiscal, o sea, las autoridades locales aún más no tienen dinero para implementar los derechos, las políticas. No tiene dinero para razones, no vamos a profundizar en este momento. ¿Y qué pasa? Pasa que los inversores van a proponer a ustedes, digo en general, proyectos, privatizaciones, utilizo de bienes públicos que pasan mucho arriba de lo que estamos debatiendo. El riesgo es que nosotros lo van a pasar muy rápidamente e implementar muy rápidamente, mucho más rápidamente de lo que nosotros podemos entender. Hago un ejemplo. Hoy el Doge, Estados Unidos, ¿qué está haciendo? Cortando, a pesar de la supuesta división de los poderes, a pesar del hecho que, por ejemplo, el Estado de New York está resistiendo de alguna manera. Le hago un ejemplo muy concreto. Inteligencia artificial aplicada en las plataformas digitales inmobiliarias están inflando artificialmente los precios de los alquileres. Lo sabes esta cosa, es crear carteles. No es una idea, lo hemos analizado en conferencia y en estas últimas semanas, hay, por ejemplo, la gobernadora de Nueva York que está emanando ordenanzas para bloquear los algoritmos que permiten la creación de estos carteles. Esta es una cosa que está aparte de la democracia participativa. No, no, absolutamente no, porque en el momento en el cual ustedes, los que gobiernan las ciudades, tendrían que pagar los alquileres que los inquilinos no pueden pagar porque los precios se han inflado, ¿qué van a hacer? ¿Qué pueden hacer? Entonces, esto es un pequeño ejemplo. Y también hay un pequeño ejemplo de cómo hay autoridades que se están actuando para enfrentarse. Esto es un ejemplo para decir qué podemos hacer. Una limitación sería solamente decir, vamos a implementar la formación de los algoritmos porque asumen los derechos fundamentales, medioambientales, los presupuestos democráticos. Esa es una parte. Sin embargo, sería bueno que vamos a debatir, por ejemplo, con nuestros amigos de IAF o con otros amigos que ya están debatiendo, está viendo códigos éticos, ideas, directrices, etcétera, que entienden. Le hago un pequeño ejemplo, un pequeño ejemplo. En el Foro Urbano Mundial 2016 ha salido una declaración que dice, en síntesis, el futuro de la humanidad tiene que ser solamente urbano. Si nosotros ponemos a los algoritmos esta declaración de ONU, usted piensa que cuando algún inversor propone a usted un proyecto de desarrollo aparentemente bueno, que pero va a expulsar los residentes de los barrios históricos, esta cosa o va a destruir medio ambiente, usted piensa que va a ser sencillo desarrollar una democracia participativa con todos las características que nosotros estamos planteando. Va a ser difícil, va a ser muy difícil. Entonces, qué bueno esta etapa. El llamado, y voy a cerrar rápidamente, es que seguimos debatiendo. La idea es de construir junto una plataforma, junto quiere decir autoridades locales democráticas, organizaciones de habitantes, no solamente la sociedad civil, pero seguramente las organizaciones y las redes de habitantes, academias, es importante contar con Naciones Unidas que se están poniendo esta cosa. Vamos a ver cómo concientizar, vamos a ver cómo proponer no solamente buenas prácticas, sino políticas, y vamos a ver cómo tener herramientas comunes para utilizar bien y para contrarrestar lo que desde afuera minan la democracia participativa. Próxima etapa en Córdoba. Qué bueno que hay acá el responsable de la ciudad de Córdoba. Yo espero veramente que allá en Córdoba podemos debatir de esta plataforma y construirla con un proyecto junto. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, César. Muchísimas gracias por este compromiso y por la fuerza. Y ahí vamos a ir a construir la alianza y en Córdoba estaremos. Y hoy ya os agradezco a todos y le dejo ya la palabra a Giovanni Allegretti para que haga el cierre de la sesión. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos y gracias. Sorry, I get back to English. Thank you, Cesare, for having re-enlarged our view, because we have been talking mainly of AI as a possible tool to challenge our profession within a framework of participatory democracy. But obviously, you reminded us that if we let the AI decide, there will be no participatory democracy. There will be a techno-artificial bureaucratic democracy, educated on something that we don't know what it is, because we don't know the education of the majority of system. Although, as the Swedish colleague have been showing us, it's possible to have local systems which are educated in a way that we know better. So we are sure that the values of the AI we are using are not those of the patriarchal and neoliberal world, but they have also other vision, more plural and centered on diversity. So we are committed to continue this discussion for the future. OIDP opened us a very interesting and enthusiastic space in the previous events, as well as in Cordova, and we hope, as Cesare was wishing, that we can transform these episodic commitments on events and training into a project, a real project that in the future we could make grow together, centered on imagining the AI as a critical companion and a well-educated companion, and so we can do it better if we will do together, definitely. So thank you very much. Our commitment is to continue. This is just an episode, and I want to thank you also all the colleagues of the Association of Facilitation that have been here enthusiastically clapping, which add a little bit of human touch to an event, because online events without clapping are a little bit always cold, no, sometimes. So thank you very much for all the colleagues that have been here and gave us their time. I think that all of us we have been learning today, and we hope that this learning would produce other future learning. Thank you very much to OIDP for hosting this debate today.